So let's talk about the DualShock 4 back button attachment, but before I begin, let me just fill you in on what it is for the couple of you that may not know. It's essentially a contraption that attaches directly to the back of your DualShock 4 controller and provides two additional buttons that, can be assigned to any of the regular buttons on the controller, essentially as a double up of whatever button you assign them to. So for example, pressing circle on the DualShock will cause your character to perform a certain action in game, but if you assign one of the back buttons to circle as well, your character will perform that same action too when that back button is pressed. So how is this really even useful? Well, for starters, you could argue that for first-person shooter games on console, it's quite honestly a game changer because you can achieve a whole other level of mobility that you otherwise couldn't with the standard DualShock button layout. For example, you can reload, slide, and aim all while not having to take your thumb off your right analog stick. Now of course, something like this wouldn't be needed on PC FPS games because the additional maneuver is already there due to the nature of mouse and keyboard. But for those of you who mainly tend to play console FPS games, it could prove to be very beneficial for your gameplay. Now, it's not only beneficial for just FPS games, even though that itself could warrant an immediate buy for a lot of people, but let me just elaborate for a second. So unless you've been living under a rock, I assume you probably have played or heard of Ghost of Tsushima, which, by the way, is a fantastic PS4 exclusive, and you should definitely check it out if you haven't already. But that's besides the point. If you guys have watched reviews of the game or videos or, streams of people actually playing it, you'll quickly realize that a lot of them share a common complaint: the camera. The camera in Ghost of Tsushima is probably the toughest boss in the game by itself, as you'll find yourself more often than not fighting the camera in the middle of your fights with actual enemies. You'll get stuck behind a non-transparent object that the camera just decides to shove in front of your face for whatever reason, and the next thing you know, you've taken a blow from a dude you could barely even see. This is quite frustrating in and of itself to have the game design be the limiting factor and not your personal skill. So it makes sense why countless amounts of people have complained about the camera in Ghost of Tsushima. But you might be wondering, why am I even talking about this? What does this have to do with the DualShock back button attachment? Well, you remember when I said the back button attachment isn't good for just FPS games? Well, Ghost of Tsushima is a perfect example of my claim. With this attachment, the issue of the camera is completely fixed, as you can assign your most important actions to your back buttons like attack and dodge, and still retain control of the camera because you don't have to take your thumbs off the analog stick to press whatever button it is you want to press. It's sort of hard to convey how good of a solution the attachment is through words because you really have to experience it through use and see for yourself. The attachment was also super useful for me when I was playing Witcher 3 on both PS4 and PC, as it seems that game also suffers from the same poor camera design that's inherent of Ghost of Tsushima. So, I just thought I'd throw that out there. Also, this brings me to my next topic. Where are the back buttons on the DualSense, man? Honestly, before the unveiling of the DualSense controller, I really did think that it would come with at least two buttons on the back as a standard, because in my opinion, all signs definitely were pointing towards something like this happening, and it would have made perfect business sense to make it a thing in the first place for Sony. I mean, with the popularity of things like SCUF controllers, and the fact that Sony unveiled the back button attachment so late into the PS4's life cycle, it really did seem like they were going to feature additional back buttons built into every DualSense straight from the factory. But as we all know, that didn't happen, and in my opinion, it's really just a missed business opportunity on Sony's part. But with all that being said, I would really love to get my hands on a new back button attachment for the DualSense. Perhaps something with 4 customizable buttons on the back, similar to a SCUF controller with the 4 back paddles. I think if Sony did something like this, it would really be a big hit, and I hope it would at least give those greedy people over at SCUF a reality check for selling unbelievably overpriced controllers that just have a couple of extra flimsy paddles installed into the back, simply because they can, because there really isn't any other direct competitor on the market with the same amount of brand recognition and marketing as SCUF. I mean, to put something in perspective, the DualShock back button attachment goes for around usually $20 to $30, goes up and down depending on where you're from. Whereas the most basic of scuffs with only 2 additional paddles easily go for upwards of $200, which is absolutely ridiculous to me. The value with Sony's offering is incredible, as you're essentially getting a scuff for only $25, since most people more than likely have a DualShock laying around anyways, since they come with every PS4 console. So yeah, those are basically my thoughts on the DualShock 4 back button attachment for the PS4, and why I personally believe it's such a massively underrated and overlooked accessory for the PS4, and something that I definitely, for sure, love to see a refresh of for the PS5. So guys, as always, if you enjoyed this video, please give it a like. It helps out more than you know. Comment down below on what your thoughts are on the PS4 back button attachment, and if it should be something that gets updated for the PS5 when it comes out. And consider subscribing to my channel to stay up to date on all the latest gaming and tech related news and discussions. I hope to see you again on my channel real soon. Take it easy, guys.